Like a master chess player, John Stossel sets former Secretary of State, former CIA Director Mike Pompeo up for a 1-2 punch.
I want to thank Noble Gold for sponsoring today's video. Most Americans don't own sound money. Sound money is defined by the Constitution as gold and silver. It's been accepted as sound money for over 5,000 years. And even though it's been artificially suppressed by the international banking cartel, it was the best performing investment class for 2022. In that year, the S&P was down 20%, the Dow was down 10%, and Bitcoin was down over 65%. Gold and silver outperformed them all. Open a gold or silver IRA with Noble Gold Investments this month and get this quarter-ounce American Gold Eagle for free with every qualified IRA of $50K or more. With thousands of 5-star reviews, there's a lot of happy people who are glad they went with Noble Gold. Check them out with my link in the description and in the pinned comment. Now, back to today's video. In my opinion, one of the best journalists and interviewers on the web is John Stossel. The lens through which he views his world is liberty, and his concern appears to be simple. Let's just discover what the truth of the matter is and how it's going to affect humanity, and then let's do something about it. Recently, he interviewed former Secretary of State, former CIA Director Mike "Lie, Cheat, and Steal" Pompeo. Pompeo is running the circuit promoting his book, Never Give an Inch, Fighting for the America I Love. A CIA director fighting for America. Imagine the cognitive dissonance you have to be entrenched in to believe that steaming pile of BS. What I like about Stossel's interviews is that they're not hostile. As a matter of fact, they're fairly disarming. He knows who his guest is, and he knows what he's all about. But like a great chess master, he allows his opponent, and Mike Pompeo is definitely America's opponent, he allows him to hang himself. Stossel just doesn't go for the jugular. He gives Pompeo enough room to keep talking so he can expose his tyrannical underbelly. Here's part of how Stossel chose to introduce his interview.
What follows is my hour-long interview with this very smart politician. He surprised me by saying a bunch of things I liked. But also, I disagree with him about a lot. He calls legalizing drugs a terrible idea. And he says Edward Snowden should be killed.
Now, these two disagreements he has with Pompeo are way too massive to ignore. What I like about Stossel's approach on this is that he knows this recorded interview will be uploaded to the internet and will be there forever. He knows that he doesn't have to move in and strike down Pompeo's clear tyrannical leanings. All Stossel has to do is draw Pompeo into a conversation and let Pompeo himself admit what kind of evil tyrant he really is. The internet in subsequent years will take care of the rest. Stossel doesn't have to do any shredding. We'll do that job for him. So we're going to get to Pompeo's insistence on keeping the drug war in place and his outlook on Snowden in a minute.
Why not legalize drugs? Then the cartel leaders wouldn't exist.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea. This is the road to ruin in the United States.
Why?
You see the decimation that we have from our drug culture today.
But that's because it's illegal.
No, it's because there's too much product readily available, and the family institutions at their core are beginning to fray in ways that are fundamentally dangerous for the United States.
It's almost like CIA Director Pompeo is intentionally ignoring the fact that prohibitions, whether for alcohol or drugs or guns, always ends up increasing overall crime, reducing safety in America, empowering and enriching criminal cartels, increasing the price of the thing being prohibited, and making the prohibited item even more dangerous to consume than it would have been in a free market. Not to mention the wildly unsustainable price tag it takes to implement prohibition, not only in terms of money, but also in terms of innocent human lives. And real quick, as an important side note, which speaks to the quality and safety of the thing prohibited, there's a consequence of prohibiting products that has been labeled the Iron Law of Prohibition by Richard Cowan. The law states that the more intense the law enforcement, the more potent the prohibited substance becomes. For example, when drugs or alcoholic beverages are prohibited, they'll become more potent, will have greater variability in potency, will be adulterated with unknown or dangerous substances, and will not be produced and consumed under normal market constraints. And if true, the Iron Law of Prohibition undermines the prohibitionist case and reduces or outweighs the benefits ascribed to a decrease in consumption, which is the supposed aim of prohibition in the first place.
I write about this. I was doing foreign policy work for 4 years. I was the CIA director and the Secretary of State. But in Never Give an Inch, I talk about the fact that the greatest risk to America is our central institutions, our schools, our families, our faith institutions. Those are the institutions that have always been the glue for the United States of America. We have to get those right. And when we do, we should not seek it by legalization. We shouldn't legalize drugs because we think somehow that will improve our lie, to use a golf term. That would make the problems for ordinary families all across America even more difficult.
In other words, according to Pompeo, the government should step in and make drugs illegal. America should continue the war on drugs, which, as Pompeo well knows, isn't really a war on inanimate things like drugs. It's a war on Americans. The war on Americans, also called the war on drugs, is what gave massive rise to the prison industrial complex and turned us into incarceration nation. The government is saying, we don't trust you with your body or your own choices, so we're going to create criminals out of thin air, and that'll give us the right to violate your Fourth Amendment right to be secure in your person. So the guy who says he's fighting for America wants to continue fighting against Americans. Stossel gets Pompeo to expose himself as he lays further cover for the military-industrial complex, which is termed national defense. He even gets Pompeo to lie by saying that as president, he wouldn't spend more money to bolster national security.
More on defense. Would you spend more?
I'd spend more efficiently, but I would spend whatever it takes to protect the American people. Well, depending on how you count national security today, we're somewhere on the order of about $1 trillion over a 10-year period. We can do better than that. We can deliver better outcomes more efficiently. I saw this when I was a young soldier. I saw the terrible inefficiency. It's probably in every government bureaucracy, but make no mistake about it, we're not going to solve our deficit problems on the back of our security. It's just the scale of what's required is too great.
But you don't want to spend more.
No, there's no need to spend more money than we're spending today.
How do we know that was a strategically political lie to deceive the masses?
When I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
So lying, cheating, and stealing somehow reminds Mikey Boy of the glory of the American experiment. That's how whacked out this guy is. After a brief discussion of Putin, they started talking about Edward Snowden.
Let's talk about Edward Snowden.
Edward Snowden, the man who told the world about the federal government's sweeping top-secret domestic spying program, is on the move.
After Snowden fled America, Pompeo said,
We've had the traitor Edward Snowden steal that information. He should be brought back from Russia and given due process, and I think the proper outcome would be that he would be given a death sentence.
He should be executed? He's a traitor?
Yes.
What the NSA is doing every single day as ordinary course of business is violating not only the laws as written, but likely the Constitution.
Why should I care? I figure Google and Facebook knows everything about everybody. What difference does it make?
Once we are entered into this system where everything we've ever done is instantly captured at the moment it happens and memorialized in some database somewhere just waiting to be used, it will be used.
What he told the American people about, courts said, was illegal.
Both of those thoughts can be held in one's head at the same time.
So what should he have done?
You can't steal stuff. John. You can't steal American secrets. It's unacceptable, even if your justification is noble.
The irony and hypocrisy of that statement is way too rich to pass up.
You can't steal stuff, John. You can't steal American secrets. It's unacceptable, even if your justification is noble.
When I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole.
You can't steal stuff, John.
It was like we had entire training courses.
Now back to his desire to kill a guy who exposed the reality that those in the U.S. government are using the technology that they obtained through the extortion of the American people to spy on, control, and endanger their lives, straight from a guy who claims to be fighting for America.
And by the way, I would argue that most of what he stole, having now had a chance to see that as CIA director, most of what he stole had nothing to do with the storyline that you're thinking of. The vast majority of the information he stole was America's military secrets. He put my friends at risk. He put your family members or your cousin or your friend who's serving in a submarine fleet somewhere in the world. He put their lives at risk, and he did it by stealing American stuff, and that by definition is unlawful, and he did it in a way that he knew put their lives at risk.
So the former CIA director, and remember the CIA, FBI, DEA, ATF, and the other alphabet soup federal agencies exist to put our lives at risk. This CIA director says he's concerned that somebody else is putting our lives at risk, while they, the alphabet soup agencies, daily put our lives at risk. They don't care about putting our lives at risk. They just don't want the competition while they're doing it. Now Stossel asks for just one example.
What's one example that no longer would threaten somebody? How does he threaten somebody?
Well, the information that he stole and then provided to the world, shared, trying to figure out how to do it without being the same man that he is, shared patterns of American activity and our naval fleet. This is dangerous, John. That's not noble. That's not sharing something their government's doing that's bad. And that wasn't his mission set. His mission set was to be mischievous and undermine the United States of America. Make no mistake about it. Edward Snowden's intentions were to weaken the United States of America. And he did. And he cost us lots of money trying to go fix the fact that now every one of our adversaries knew the information he provided. Yes, there were a handful of things that he leaked that some set of courts have said were unlawful. In some case, I think the courts got that wrong, but fair enough. But whatever some court may have said, I know what Edward Snowden did. I know the harm he inflicted, and I know the risk that he created for people who are serving in the United States of America's military, and that should never be forgiven because you think you have some higher mission.
Now, it could be that Snowden put American lives in jeopardy by revealing patterns of American activity. But where's the proof? I don't know about you, but I tend not to believe a guy who admits that he's been all about lying, cheating, and stealing. I'll leave the link to Stossel's entire interview in the description. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my private email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. If you want to support the channel, grab a hard-hitting conversation starting design you can get from the store and put it on your shirt, hoodie, mug, cell phone case, whatever you want. I'll see you in the next video.